So, we've been playing the closed beta of Marauders, George, as you who know more about FPS games than I do. What do you think? What's the basics of the game so far?
So, as far as I understand, I mean, I've played it for a couple of hours, and it seems just like Tarkov in space.
So basically you're in a team, or you can be solo, and you're on a ship, and you go and invade a planet, and you can do some space combat, but that seems quite sort of rudimentary at the moment. We'll get onto that. And then you invade a ship, and there's NPCs and there's other online players as well.
Yeah, so you play as like a marauder, effectively, and on the space station you are fighting against other marauders and raiders, who are the NPCs, and your goal is to basically get in and survive, get out with as much loot as you can carry.
And so you start off and you basically gear up, so you've got things like weapons, sidearms, like medical, sort of like you can get water and biscuits, which is obviously how everyone heals themselves militarily. And then you can get a bag, that means you can carry more stuff, and then you go in to what are you doing once you get in there? What are we doing?
Well, it's hard to say that there's like a goal at this point. So far, it feels like you're going in to get stuff to sell, to get better stuff.
But
having at the end of the second hour of playing it, it did feel like there was a sense of progression that you could craft better, bigger things.
It wasn't very clear to start off exactly why we were doing what we were doing. I mean, there were contracts, which were, collect a certain number of things, get a certain number of kills, and that seemed to unlock different items that you could then craft and make, which we sort of started getting into. And then there were separate ones that you could pick from like a list that seemed a bit more like longer term, I think. So how the gunplay, I mean, to me personally, I think it felt pretty solid.
It felt good.
Yeah, because I don't think these guys have ever really made an FPS before, from what I was reading about from the developers. So, you've got your standard shotgun, pistol, rifle, submachine gun, etc.
It's what people are used to, though.
It's what people are used to, and if you compare it to Tarkov, they're all real weapons. That are really,
all World War II style weapons. It's strange because it's in space, but the gunplay was great. I thought it worked really well. The hit registering was like good. Felt like all my shots were landing.
You don't get a reticle, so it's a lot of like aiming down sights, or just free aiming.
Well, it's very kind of empty in terms of there's no UI, there's no map. That's the whole point of it. It's meant to be like a realism thing where you're just listening and purely aiming. Apart from like your menu when you hit tab for like your gear and stuff. That's the only.
You've got like a tiny amount that your health and how much ammo. It doesn't reload automatically. You have to reload yourself as well, which caught me out a few times. It is very hard. I found it sometimes quite difficult to tell the difference between like you and I or other sort of teammates and the like enemies.
All about communication.
And being aware of each other and not running off. Well, and as you said, it is a beta so far, so there's still going to be kinks to iron out and that kind of thing. But I have to say, it is very it felt very well made to me. We didn't have any crashes particularly.
No.
There's only one or two bugs. I think at one point your gun vanished very early on.
Had an invisible gun for a while, which was weird because you could still shoot, but you were aiming down the sight that didn't exist, so you were just guessing.
Yeah, which isn't ideal for a game predominantly about shooting.
One thing I do think we didn't get to experience is that probably later on when people have bigger ships, better ships, more crew and stuff like that, the combat in space is probably a lot more like in depth. But because we only played it for a couple of hours, it does feel like we didn't get to experience that to the fullest. I
think that's something I want a lot more, because I think that almost feels like the unique selling point of the game for me. And being able to upgrade your ship and develop it. When you say kind of what is the main goal, I wonder if that's going to be kind of the main thing to aim towards.
Well, it does feel that way. If you go into the crafting menu and scroll all the way to the bottom, there is a lot of new ships and like bigger, best ships you can craft, but they just seem a long way away, which clearly is the end goal of the game. But there are some where it's like you get a capital frigate and all this stuff. So one thing that did feel really fun was the breaching other people's ships, getting in a little pod, invading other people's ships, and just going in and trying your best to like ruin their day.
Or finding out when you've been
stealing their stuff before they've gone in or after they've come out to try and steal the loot that they've got. It was good fun.
But overall, I think we had some good time with Marauders so far. Do you think you'll pick up a bit more of it?
I think so. Honestly, at first I wasn't sure, but having played it for a little bit more time, I think if you go in with a team, ready to communicate, ready to just like settle in and kill some other people, steal their stuff, it's good fun.
I think for me it'll be when there's a bit more content, a bit more to do, maybe a few more goals, maybe there's a bit more of a narrative in there. Like there might be like story beats, things you find, documents and stuff that just motivate you a little bit more to try and understand, because I didn't really understand what the shits were, what the world was. It would be good to have a bit more of that. But as we say, it's solid, the gunplay's great. Currently still in closed beta, soon to be in early beta for anyone who wants to play it. So if you fancy it, jump in and have a go.